Hey guys, so we have our overview of the atomic bomb, and it's a lesson we went over in the Prezi. But this is just a quick recap of some key points and some things to remember when we talk about the importance of the atomic bomb. So the first question is, who did it? Who was the culprits in this horrendous incident of war? And it was us. It was the United States. It was the men and women of the red, white, and blue. Um, as you can see, there's our precious flag. Who were the victims? Who was the bomb dropped on? It was the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. A lot of civilians, a lot of innocent, mainly innocent people who had nothing to do with the war. They were just normal, everyday people like you and I. And here we see a picture of the mushroom cloud we had talked about earlier, and look at the devastation it's causing. And just can you imagine being in that scenario? And here's the biggest question: is why was it done? Why couldn't the Americans do something else to end the war? I mean, the fighting had been raging on, in Europe since basically 1933, but in the Pacific, in the American case since 1941, and they were done, they were sick and tired. But why was there no alternative? But why did we do this? For starters, there was no good alternate route. The invasion of Japan, they were thinking about. It didn't really pan out. In on the books, there was 1 million casualties estimated, billions of dollars of war damages, and countless hours of fighting. Like I said, they'd already been fighting for 4 years. Enough is enough. I mean, you look at something like today in Iraq and Iran. We've been there for a decade, and people are just sick and tired of it. And this was 10 times worse. The U.S. wanted to be the top allied nation. There was talk of Britain and France and what happened in World War One, but here, if the U.S. had dropped an atomic bomb, and they had this secret weapon that could destroy the world, they were seen as number one. And finally, they wanted to intimidate the USSR. There was this communist scare, and the Russians were these big, tough, bad guys. But now, the Americans had the scales tipped in their balance, and they could really send a message to the world. And here we see Winston Churchill, Harry Truman, and Joseph Stalin at the Potsdam Conference, July 1945. So what were the immediate results of the bomb? And again, we talked about this earlier. They killed 105,000 people, mainly civilians, destroyed 2 entire societies, just eradicated from the face of the earth. Many people experienced radiation and radiation poisoning, and that's for generations to come as well. I mean, you look at the Prezi, and you can look up yourself on your own free time. They're just terrible, terrible scenes of radiation and radiation poisoning, and people dying because of this. And again, Japan surrenders about 2 weeks after, and World War II comes to an end. So the fighting is over, but it's just begun, in a way. So what is the effect of the atomic bomb? The world knows the power of weapons of mass destruction. So we didn't really know what it was going to look like. I mean, we had tested it in the desert in the Manhattan Project, but no one knew what it was going to do to a civilization. And we see it here, and it's just terrible, terrible incidents. And also, on top of that, the Cold War begins immediately following the end of World War II. As seen in the Prezi, Russia, 2 weeks after August 9th, 1945, which is the bombing of Nagasaki, the Russians have their own bomb, and the Cold War begins. And here's just a flag, representing the United States and the USSR. So please watch this game of Password for tomorrow's class, because this is what we'll be doing as an activity to kind of reiterate the effects of the atomic bomb.
Picked up 10 fast that way, 10 to 13.